Tell me, do you, as a student, feel safe in school anymore? With the ongoing rise of violence and more school shootings, we need to talk about Yondr Pouches and why these pouches are actually more dangerous than secure. Let's dive right in. For Gen Z, the smartphone is far more than a device for entertainment. It is essentially a tool for survival inside of an increasingly unpredictable world. The introduction of Yondr Pouches, magnetic sleeves designed to lock phones away during school hours, has created a fundamental shift between administrative goals and student reality. While schools argue these pouches reclaim focus and improve mental health, many students view them as a dangerous security risk that ignores the very reason they were given phones in the first place. Over the last couple of years, more and more states are placing a ban on phones in schools, and sadly, my state is no different. In mid 2025, Texas announced a phone ban for every public school that receives funding from the state. This legislative shift has forced thousands of students into a daily routine of sealing their primary communication tool in a magnetic sleeve, often against the wishes of families who prioritize constant contact for safety reasons. The primary concern regarding Yondr Pouches is the critical delay they create during emergency situations such as school shootings. Instead of an active threat scenario, every second is a matter of life or death. While schools utilize traditional intercom systems, students are often the first to witness a threat. Without immediate access to their devices, students lose the ability to call 911 or text anonymous tip lines the moment an intruder is spotted, potentially delaying law enforcement's arrival by several minutes. Furthermore, these pouches eliminate the insight intelligence that modern first responders rely on. During recent tragedies, student 911 calls from within barricaded classrooms provided dispatchers with vital information regarding the shooter's location and the medical status of the wounded. If phones are trapped inside of a magnetic sleeve, dispatchers cannot provide real-time first aid instructions or guide students through safe evacuation routes based on the movement of the threat, leaving both students and police in a tactical vacuum. The psychological impact of being disconnected during a crisis cannot be overstated. For Gen Z, the ability to send a discreet "I'm okay" text to a parent is the vital grounding mechanism that helps maintain the silence and composure necessary for a successful lockdown. Without this outlet, the resulting information vacuum leads to widespread panic. This panic often extends to parents who may swarm the school in desperation, inadvertently blocking access for emergency vehicles and SWAT teams. In the high school I go to, most students burn their phones, which I originally did until I got caught. Thankfully, I wasn't suspended. What's worse is that sometimes a student has to pay around $30 for a new pouch just for the same cycle to repeat. This cycle of enforcement creates a financial burden on families while doing little to address the underlying anxiety students feel. When the safety tool is confiscated or locked away, the drive to circumvent the system becomes a matter of perceived survival rather than a simple rebellion. Not only did technology have an impact, Gen Z grew up around technology. We know the ins and outs of possibly every gadget. We teach our grandparents and parents about AI scams. Yet, there is one thing that got us pretty cooked, and that was the quarantine for COVID-19. Yeah, talking about this feels nostalgic considering that we're currently having the hantavirus spreading around. During these dark times, the only actual way for us to communicate was through the use of social media platforms like Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I even remember doom scrolling because we were limited to the comfort of our house. We couldn't step outside because it was still deadly, and that impact ultimately made us even more dependent on technology. I have classmates who bring magnets to school, and I ask them to open my pouch because I don't feel safe in school. I feel vulnerable, and Yondr Pouches are crossing the line over security for better grades. This sentiment reflects a growing divide between students and school administration. To a generation raised in a 24/7 information cycle, being forced offline feels like a break and more like being rendered blind and deaf to the risks of the environment. The academic benefits of a phone-free room are often overshadowed by the raw fear of being unreachable during a catastrophe. Ironically, the vast majority of us Gen Z students received their first smartphones specifically for school safety. Following the rise of campus violence in the late 2000s and early 2010s, parents began viewing the digital tether as a non-negotiable requirement. The phone was a safety purchase, a tool for GPS tracking, and a direct line of communication that bypassed school bureaucracy. Families invested in these devices to ensure their children were never truly alone. The security risk doesn't end when the school day does. In large schools, the unlocking stations create massive bottlenecks at dismissal. Students who need to catch a specific bus or walk through a high-crime neighborhood often face a choice: waiting in a long line to unlock their phone or leave with a bricked device. If a student is harassed or injured on their way home while their phone is still stuck inside a locked pouch, the school policy has directly contributed to their physical endangerment. Ultimately, the conflict over Yondr Pouches highlights a generational divide in how technology is perceived. To administrators, the phone is a luxury or a distraction that can be managed with a magnet in a bag. To Gen Z and their parents, the phone is a fundamental safety requirement. Until school policies account for the reality of modern security and the necessity of immediate communication, students will likely continue to view these pouches as not as a protective measure, but as an obstacle to their own survival. If you like my content, consider subscribing, as I put a ton of effort into the videos I make. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.